All right. Well, what are we doing here today?
Well, I've got to do a project on a renowned scholar, someone that influenced me in history and teaching, the path I took. And so I'm just was pondering how I'm going to deliver this to my students or to my professor or to my cohorts. His name's Henry Louis Gates Jr. And I mean, help me brainstorm me. I was thinking you could hold the camera on me. I've kind of know about him enough to kind of give a timeline and a little biography about him.
I mean that'd be good, but why don't you start off just by showing everyone all everything that he's done, whether it was books he's written, videos he's made or been in. That way you can kind of get a visual.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching Decay is Headed Your Way. Today we're going to move away from the abandoned places and the Walking Dead locations, and we're going to be talking about a person named Henry Louis Gates Jr. So come go with us and we'll try to entertain you along the way.
A 58-year-old black man was arrested at his own home by police looking for a suspected robber. The story grabbed national headlines because the man in question is one of the nation's most prominent African-American scholars.
Okay, well here's all the books he's written. This kind of gives me an idea of his interest and his expertise. But I don't know if you're like me at all. I want to go beyond what he's written. I want to see him and watch him and see how he conducts himself around people. And so let's keep looking.
Hey, how about we look up a book review or an interview that Dr. Gates did to see what other people are saying about it. Oh. Now, I couldn't find anything on his first 3 books, but I found his 4th one, Colored People.
Henry Louis Gates Jr., author of Colored People. Why the title?
Well, we were colored in the 1950s, and this is a book that attempts to recount what it was like to be of African descent in the United States between 1950 and roughly 1970. And partly it's a book about names and naming, and not only the names that the race has given itself, from colored people to Negro to black, ultimately to African American, but also one's own names. As you know, I talk about the names that were given to me at different points in my life, and then finally when I was 25, I took my father's name.
Here's his next book. He co-wrote this with a man named Cornel West.
Oh really? Toss that puppy here. Nelson, hi!
Tell me about the future of the race. First of all, I'm curious about the name itself for the book. How did you choose it?
Well, it was, we experimented with different titles, and I think we wanted to call it On the Talented Tenth because, as you know, we took a famous essay by W.E.B. Du Bois, our intellectual hero, and called The Talented Tenth, which was published at the turn of the century, 1903. And it was about the responsibilities of the educated class of blacks to the uneducated, the privileged to the not so privileged. And here we are, just these 3 decades virtually since Dr. King was so tragically killed. And we have the largest black middle class in history and one of the largest black underclasses in history. Fully 1/3 of the black community is worse off today economically than it was this day in 1968. How do we get here? What are the responsibilities of the haves to the have-nots? What are the responsibilities of the society to the African American community? That's what we wanted to wrestle with, and that's why we wrote this book.
I wish I had a book. Yeah, man, this is fine. Now, this tells me Dr. Gates is proud of his heritage and where he comes from. But any proud man in America can say the same thing, that they're proud of their culture and who they are. Let's keep digging and see what else we can find.
You know, we're starting to get some of what of a timeline going here, and timelines can sometimes be pretty boring.
Well, what do you think we should do? Because I think it's pretty good.
Well, I mean, how about this? How about we skip ahead 10 years and we see what Dr. Gates is doing? And, you know, if we feel like we missed anything, we can always come back.
By analyzing your mitochondrial DNA, it's possible to find out something about your matrilineal line. That's your mother's 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 line, back all through time. Pass on the news. These are your DNA results. Now, first thing I have to say
What?
is that no African American slaves came from South Africa.
None.
None.
So I'm not Zulu?
You cannot be Zulu. You can be spiritually, I have the same, when they did mine, I'm spiritually Yoruba. I love the Yoruba people.
Yeah.
But I have absolutely nothing to do genetically with the Yoruba people. And you, my friend, have nothing to do with the Zulu people genetically.
I'm not?
No, but you have a rich heritage.
Okay,
and now
good.
I'm about to take you to another part of
Okay.
Africa.
Go ahead. Okay, where am I from?
We found Africans with identical mitochondrial DNA to you among the Capelli people in Liberia, the Bamileke people in Cameroon, and a Bantu tribe in Zambia. To determine which of these African groups Oprah's enslaved ancestor came from, we must start with her matrilineal line in the United States. So our best guess is that Oprah shares ancestry with the 300,000 Capelli people who still live in the rainforests of central Liberia. In
Capelli people.
Liberia.
Liberia. Wow. Well, first of all, that is astounding that we can even do that.
Wow. 1 decade later, 5 books published to his name, and 9 films. Dr. Gates has become bold enough to even have his own interview with Oprah. Hey Tom, this is a little something different that Dr. Gates has done. You know, we've been looking at all this stuff all day about African Americans. You know, he actually looks like he wrote a book about Abraham Lincoln and did a film about it.
Henry Louis Gates Jr. sets out to find the real Abraham Lincoln
It's a detective story, it's a mystery, it's a journey.
and makes some surprising discoveries.
Those are the stories that I will toss you out of my tavern.
You can't defend Lincoln without defending slavery.
He was able to stand his ground and fight hard for what he believed in.
Looking for Lincoln.
Oh man, that's interesting. Hey, did you know I did my senior thesis on Abraham Lincoln?
Hey Tom, here's a book called Black in Latin America. It's actually a film too that's in this book. It was filmed back in 2011. Take a look.
From PBS, Henry Louis Gates Jr. finds African roots in the colliding cultures of Latin America.
This place looks like Harlem.
A search for identity
If I lived in Brazil, what color would I be?
reveals a surprising history.
Ooh, my God, look at this.
And how Afro-Latinos view themselves today.
Dominicans are in complete denial of who they are.
You're all different colors. You can't all be Negra.
Black in Latin America, a new series premiering April 19th at 8, 7 Central on PBS.
Hey, what is Dr. Gates currently working on? Let's look at this final piece of the puzzle and try to tie it all together.
So he just finished up his first season of Finding Your Roots, and he's currently working on the second season. Let's take a look.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. Welcome to Finding Your Roots, a journey into the ancestral past of some of America's most notable figures.
Oh man, I gotta watch that. I've heard of all kind of famous people on that show.
Yeah, I actually saw the Stephen King episode. Hey, he did this film between seasons 1 and 2.
I've spent much of my life searching for the stories of the African American people.
Our first notation of Anthony Johnson essentially defines him as Antonio the Negro.
I've always wanted to tell their history. 5 centuries in the making. It's a living history. And I've traveled around the country and across the globe to chronicle it.
Assalamu alaikum. Did any of you receive wealth inherited from the slave trade?
Black people changed American society.
America probably wouldn't have much of a popular culture without black people.
We blackified it. We took everything and made it better.
You're a good cook, man.
Black people redefined the American dream.
Robert Smalls epitomizes America. Come from nothing and to be a success.
They held the country to its ideals, even when it abandoned them. In these 6 hours, I'll tell the stories of some of the people, places, and events that made Black history. Stories of courage, determination, and the power of hope.
Are you prepared to take the oath, Senator? I am.
Well, everyone, I guess we're going to wrap this presentation up. This has been another Bert and Tom.
Wait. What? I mean, you have to tell them or show them Dr. Gates getting arrested. I mean, you can't just show them a little bit and not do a follow-up.
Yeah, you're right.
Our national correspondent Jim Axelrod has more.
This is not how Henry Louis Gates is used to being seen in public, handcuffed and being taken away by the police.
Will it lead to the mediocrats changing the subject?
This is perhaps America's best-known African-American intellectual and director of Harvard's African-American Research Institute. Gates was arrested for disorderly conduct last Thursday at his home in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this presentation on Henry Louis Gates Jr.
We promise we'll be back next week for all things abandoned.
That's right. Hey guys, please subscribe and tell a friend about us. It only takes a second. Thanks, and remember,
Decay is headed your way.